back to do was go through with you sort of what composes the test and what you need to do as parents. And I did it, I've done it at different times during the year. And I sort of noticed that if we do it too early, people kind of forget. But you don't want to do it too late. So right now, it's 2 months to the FCATs. There is, it's the last 2 weeks of April. So it's probably a good time to go through it. Okay. Page down. Ah, it worked. Okay, this is just basic kind of parent stuff. You know, you get to school on time. The night before all of the tests, you want to get a good night's sleep. You want the healthy breakfast, knowing school's important to you and knowing you care. And just on the knowing school's important to you and knowing that you care, the fact that you're here tonight and you kids know that you're here tonight, pretty much says everything. I mean, to me, to my parents were very much interested in education and how I did in school, and you know, and so therefore it just became an intrinsic part of me. Encourage them, positive attitude, talk and listen, provide time for relaxation. Homework, you know, we've gotten a lot of kids this year from a lot of different places because we took in over 500 new kids. And coming from different schools, there were a lot of different homework policies. Some schools don't believe in homework. Some schools don't really check it. You know, you kind of do it. We're really big believers in homework. And big believers in, because we only have them so long during the day. You all have them a lot longer than we do. And homework becomes really important. And it's not done so that they do busy work. It's done, number one, for reinforcement. And number two, because when they come in the next day, the teachers go over the homework. And a lot of times they can figure out if there are any problems before it goes too far. So philosophically here, homework really is an important part of their education. Down. Okay, again, learning's a priority, support attendance. Ask higher order thinking, ask higher order questions at every opportunity. And what I will do is go through what some of those are, because the teachers use them a lot in class. And read as much as you can. Let them know on the test, and again, the teachers do this, we'll reinforce it, that they need to read all the directions. You know, when I was a teacher, I used to start out, I taught middle school, and I used to start out every year with this sheet of directions. And the first direction was read all directions before doing anything. And then the thing went on to say hop on one foot, clap your hands, rub your head, jump up and down. And I would watch as all the kids did all that. The very last thing, down to about number 20, was do nothing but write your name. And you'd always get that one kid that was sitting there watching everybody, jumping and laughing and clapping, but that kid read the directions. And one of the things that, again, you know, the teachers are brilliant at is trying to make the kids realize that they have to read directions. And one of the things that becomes kind of critical is directions that have more than one step. Walk over there, make a right, get the pot, whatever it is, you know. Recipes, and I'm thinking about kitchens and you know, all the recipe kind of things that you do in the kitchen. You 2-step, 3-step, 4-step directions. Even if you do them verbally, then they become used to them. So directions become very important. Also, they shouldn't leave anything unanswered. So if they ask you those questions, and a lot of times kids will go home and ask the parents the questions, those are the answers. Multiple choice questions. What do you guys, and just for example, 4th grade, what do you refer to the questions as? You know, you have a multiple choice question, 2 answers are ridiculous. Do you have a name for those ridiculous questions? Ridiculous answers? Distractors. Do you all call them distractors? Okay, and that's pretty much when you look at, you know, a lot of the Florida Department of Ed stuff, we call them distractors. Those are the 2 answers out of 4 that they want to distract you. And actually, we get a lot of data. And in a lot of the data, it'll tell us which children answered which questions a certain way, which one of them picked the distractors. So if you get 3/4 of a class that picks C, and C was one of the distractors, that tells the teacher a couple of things. You know, perhaps they didn't read the question correctly. Perhaps there's a word in there that they didn't go over how to handle that word. Perhaps it's content, but it lets the teachers know really well that they need to reteach that.
For me, I teach 3rd grade, but they will choose a word that's familiar to them, not necessarily that it's not the right meaning, but that if it's about butterflies, they'll find the sentence that has butterflies in it, and it's not really a distraction.
It's not really the answer.
It's never the answer, and it's a real skill.
So what do you tell them when they do that? Like, how do you?
They got caught, and they have to read the entire answer, and they have to plug it into the question. That's what we do.
Reading the entire answer and plugging it into the question. So when you go over these things with them at night, or you go over the homework, that's something that you want to look at. Okay? Thanks, Lynn. No, I want to go, okay. Again, let them know if they have time to reread their answers, and be careful to check math work. A lot of the kids like to hand the papers in quickly. Reinforce. Take your time. Take your time. And again, you know, the teachers put on the board, you know, it's 10 o'clock. The test is over at 11 o'clock. It is now 10:25. And they show them how to gauge themselves. Okay, so, you know, let them know that, yeah, to some degree, you know, they don't have to answer it immediately. They need to take their time to some degree. Okay, so you want them to work relatively quickly, but you want them to work efficiently. And teachers, please, you know, jump in if you have something that you can help us out with. I think I did that one. I keep forgetting I have to go down because I made them go sideways. Here's some information about the actual test. The test, the reading test, has 2 separate types of information. You have literary text, which is your kind of literature stuff, your stories, and informational text, which are things that come from newspapers or magazines or a social studies book or a science book. And what we do is we have the teachers work together on teams, on their regular teams. So if they have social studies, well, in 3rd grade, they teach all the same stuff. 4th grade, they switch. So if you're teaching social studies, it's really important that you're able to read social studies, because in 3rd grade, 40% of the test, of the reading test, is based on informational text. So you want them to be able to read those kinds of things. So when you get the newspaper at home, let them read it, ask them questions, because that stuff is incredibly important. If you're looking at their science homework, it's all informational text, and it's 40%. As they go up in the grades, 4th grade, it becomes 50-50, and you can see that as you go down the line, informational text becomes more and more important. All the way down to 9th grade, where it's the large majority, the overwhelming majority of the test. So when you read newspapers with them, a lot of times, you know, parents will say to me, well, you know, you read a newspaper, what grade level is that on? That's not really the issue with things that you're doing at home. What you want them to do is to be used to, like, extrapolating information. You know, so why do you think that happened? And we'll talk about how you question in a few minutes. This is cognitive complexity, which is the demand associated with an item, the cognitive demand. How much do you have to think? Okay? What does that mean? Okay, there are 3 different categories of cognitive complexity. And excuse my back, it's just hard to look at look at everything. Okay. So you have 3 categories. You have low complexity, moderate complexity, and high complexity. And what they do on the FCAT is they weight the questions differently. So high complexity questions, while there are going to be less of them, are also going to be, they're going to be worth more points. And you have to teach a kid how to approach these kinds of questions. Moderate, your low complexity is just going to be one answer, one step. Moderate might require multiple steps, And high complexity items require analysis and synthesizing information. Okay, and we'll go on to take a little bit more of a look at this. And again, if you look, here's your low complexity, moderate complexity, and high complexity. So in third grade, most of your questions are going to be in that moderate complexity. Some will be in low complexity, a few are in high complexity, and we'll go over how you can, just in conversation, and just when you help your child with, for example, their reading homework, how you can gear the questions just to maximize their points and to maximize their comprehension. So, this is not big enough. Okay, you all have a handout. Where is my, you know what I need? I need one of those. They're over here, let me get, I'm sorry. I just need to get one of those. You should all be looking at the cognitive complexity level for FCAT content areas. Okay, and I thought this would work a little bit better than it did. Okay. So that gives you an idea of how they lay the test out. And if you look on page 2 of 6, FCAT reading, they give you a whole bunch of examples on the different complexity levels. So you have low complexity, which is identify, locate details in a text. So when they go back and they look to find, you know, here's the question, now you have to go back in the text and find the answer. That's a low complexity question, because all they're doing is going back into the text and saying, there it is. Do you have the right thing? You look confused. It's this. Everybody have this? They're right there. Yeah, somebody help her out, please. Ah, you go. Okay. And we're on page 2 of 6, which is just one page over. So when you have a homework assignment and you have a graph, and you say locate something on the graph, low complexity. That's the bottom of the scale of questioning, and questioning is very important. Moderate complexity is using context clues to identify the meaning of unfamiliar words, for example. So if there's a word and you don't know the answer and you say, look it up in the dictionary, low complexity. If you say you don't know the word, try and get the meaning from the words around it, now you're into moderate complexity because you're asking them to do something that's not just rote. Cause and effect, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but cause and effect relationships. This happened because why? If this happens, what do you think will happen? And those questions are all over the FCAT. They're all over the FCAT reading. And in your everyday conversation, you know, I put the towels in the laundry with your black pants. Why do you think they got wrecked? Very simple kind of stuff like that, but all it is forcing that next level of thought. And that's what these tests are looking for. And ultimately, when you know, it all kind of seems, you know, like small things now, but as they go on, and I've got 2 adult children, and as they go on and they go to take those SATs or the, you know, all of these college, high school courses and college courses, this is what they're asking them to do. They're asking them to think on that level, way up here. So it's really training them from when they're young. And as parents, there are so many things you can do based on every day. And that's why I wanted this little workshop thing to be, what can you do every day? Because parents have all different kinds of backgrounds and levels and education, but you're all parents and you all want your kids to succeed. So, Jim, I just made a mess here. Can I just keep keep going? Okay. I will try not to step on it. All right. Comparing word meanings. Again, it's not just what does the word mean. Well, that word means that, and that word means that. How are they similar? How are they different? And again, that's another skill, compare and contrast. How are they the same? How are they different? High complexity, and that's not even high complexity. Now we're going to get to high complexity. Analyze the use of figurative language in a test. Okay, so if you have language that's representing something else, not only do you know what it's representing, you're able to figure out why. What does it mean? I'm gonna just, Jen, can you give a concrete example of that? Jennifer is National Board Certified in Reading, and I'm gonna put her right on the spot and say, give us a question, analyze the use of figurative language in a text on a 3rd, 4th, 5th grade level.
So you have the cloud is a fluffy marshmallow. Okay, that is an example of a metaphor. So you might have to find the author is comparing the cloud to what, and then on top of that, you know, what kind of figurative language is being used. Okay, so the author's comparing the cloud to the fluffy marshmallow, and that is a metaphor because two things are being compared, one thing is another.
Okay, so they not only, very good, very nice job. That was right on the spot. There was no prep there. So they have to know it's figurative language. They have to know it's a metaphor. Or you could have a simile, or you could have a variety of different things. Like a fluffy marshmallow. Right, then that would be a simile, right? With the word like. Okay. So they have to, and why would, and author's purpose. What is the purpose? Another big skill. What was the author's purpose in making that comparison? Evaluating strong and weak arguments in a text, describing and analyzing, all that is higher order thinking. If you look down at the math, we'll go to the next thing, and briefly, low complexity, one-step problem. Even long division, which to me would be high complexity, is not. It's one problem. Okay? But, well, long division might come under moderate complexity because it has multiple operations. Okay? But the FCAT is not going to say what is 24 into 732. They're going to say two trains are going at each other and have a whole scenario. Another reason why we emphasize reading so much is because you have to be able to read the math test and read the science test. Okay? So retrieving information, selecting or using representations depending on the situation and purpose. Do you want to use a graph as a representation? Do you want to use, you know, what type of graph do you want to use? Why do you want to use it? What are you trying to get at? Can you read graphs? Explaining and justifying a solution to a problem. And sometimes the kids hate when we ask them to do this, because it's tough. It's tough to explain a solution. How did you get it? When we ask them to show the work, and the math teachers here can attest to it, they really get upset. But how do we know what they got wrong? Maybe their error was in step 2. Maybe their error was in step 5. We don't know unless they show all the work. But why did you choose that operation to solve the problem? So if they're doing word problems at home, or they're doing that type of thing, why? What made you choose that? And formulating a mathematical model. Sometimes you want to say, what equation would you use for that? And then science. Science is only given in grades 5 and grade 8. And that will list all the different complexity levels. I think you get that. And writing is all high complexity. And what they have to do now in the writing, and again, that's 4th and 8th grade, the writing now takes into account not only what they're saying. In 4th grade, there are 2 different types of essays. One is expository, which explains, and one is a narrative, which is, you know, you're telling the story from your point of view, and Jeff, I'm going to defer to you on that. But they look to all of the various, how you write. So now they're looking at punctuation, they're looking at spelling, they're looking at syntax. Is there anything you want to jump in on with that? Jeff is our 4th grade writing teacher. 3rd grade parents, this is good for you as well.
Just pretty much what you said. This year they're giving them an extra 15 minutes. In the past it's been 45 minutes. They have an extra 15 minutes, so it's 1 hour. And they put that on because there is going to be more of an emphasis on capitalization, spelling, punctuation, grammar, that kind of thing. So at this point, you know, the FCAT writing is 4 days away, so we've been plugging away and working on that. There's not much we can do more than we can do to get prepared. But any kind of, you know, if you're writing with your kids at home, especially with the 3rd grade parents, you know, go back over it with them. I encourage my parents to go over it with them, have the kids read their stories to them that they're doing for homework, and just kind of, if you see any kind of spelling errors or something that you notice, just little things here and there, kind of work with them on that, because that kind of helps me out, because we don't get a lot of time in class to work on specific things. So anything that you can work on with them at home that you see as far as, you know, complete sentences and those kind of things, that really helps out. Thanks,
because all the little things really add up. They really add up. The capitals, the periods, the punctuation, spelling, it all adds up. Okay, page down. This gives you just a graph of how many words there are per selection on the test by grade level. And one of the things that we talk to the kids a lot about is endurance. And when we get the data back, and we get back tremendous amounts of data, we kind of look, one of the things we look at is, did they blow the last 2 pages or 3 pages? Did they do well? And then really kind of fell off the last 2 or 3 pages. And if they did, what that tells us is they got tired. They got tired. So we have to build up their stamina. So if they're sitting doing their homework for half an hour or 45 minutes without interruption, that's not a bad thing. Because we as teachers and you as parents, you know, you always want to jump in and help. And we do, but when they're doing reading, try and let them get through as much of it as possible on their own and then help them out. Because it's you know, when you take these reading tests, and these passages are long. They have to sit there. They have to concentrate. They have to remember all the stuff that they were taught. I'm going to highlight this. This is important. That's a distractor. This is, you know, there's a lot going through their heads. And they do get tired. So a lot of it is building up stamina. That's why we want the good night's sleep and the good breakfast and all that, you know, so that we can give them as good a shot as they can get. Text features I want to talk about. Text features, there are a lot of text features on the reading test. What is a text feature? That's what they are. Table of contents, headings, index, glossary, maps, bold prints, labels, diagrams, charts, tables, and graphs. You will see a lot of those in a newspaper. You'll see a lot of them, like if you're in the supermarket and you pick up a soup label, a can of soup, and you have that whole nutrition thing on the back, that's a text feature. That's getting information from a source other than a paragraph kind of thing. And what they'll do is they'll stick a map in there with a caption, and there'll be a question on it. So as you're doing these things at home, just regular, everyday kind of stuff. You know, if there's a diagram on something that you buy, how to put the shelf together, do it together. Shows them how to follow a diagram. Shows them the steps, comprehension, cause and effect. If I hammer the nail in wrong and the shelf falls apart, you know, or if I hammer it incorrectly and now I have, so all these things are all really part of daily life. That's all they are. And the more we get help with that, the better off, you know, the kids are going to be. And they're all lifelong skills that they need. All right, FCAT item specifications. I'm just going to go through these a little bit, And I think if I do this, I'll get it, right? Okay, this is from the Florida Department of Education website. Oh boy, you were right about using the mouse, Carly. Okay. What this is, okay, and what you'll find, and you have the website on your printout, okay, what you'll find with this, these are, we use these a lot for teaching. And what these are, oh, how do I get to the end of the page? I want to, oh, I can do it this way. Okay. You'll find there's a lot of literature, and it talks about all the different things that about the FCAT. It's a whole lot of information. And then when you get down to it, what this really is everything you ever wanted to know about the FCAT. Let me get rid of that. All the different types of questions, some of the information I took out and gave you. We talked earlier about literary text and informational text. There it all is right there. This is the document that the Department of Education puts out to say, this is what will be on the test. The content, text features. This is telling you what their guidelines are, okay? For example, the texts that are selected for the FCAT should bring a range of cultural diversity. The reading level should be appropriate to the tested grade level. It's kind of their rules for themselves. Text lengths, which I gave you. And I'm trying to get down a little faster. And then what a lot of the teachers will do, it talked about how long they should spend on each item, and the teachers, of course, go over with that. And then it'll go through real good examples of the complexity items that we talked about. Cognitive levels. I'm trying to get to the part. And then it talks about all the benchmarks. Okay, grade 3, for example. Okay? This tells you everything that's in the curriculum, everything that they're going to be tested on. And you don't have to go through every single little thing, but it really gives you an idea of, for example, context clues. What kind of questions will they ask? So that even in your everyday conversation, you can tailor to it. And you know what I see a lot of the teachers do, which is kind of interesting, is they'll have kids make up the tests, but they have to use the specs. Okay, so all this stuff is right there, and you have the website. Shades of meaning, and the story was up above, and what they're trying to do, why does the author choose that word instead of a different word? That's all inference. They're not going to be able to go back in the paragraph and say, this is why he chose it. Why do you think he chose it? Well, unfortunately, what you think has to be the right answer. So, you know, they strategize as far as how are we going to come up with this. And again, you know, this is all stuff you can look at home. It's all there. So those are the item specs. There are item specs for reading, math, and science. Now I have to use this thing. I'm doing very technologically not so bad. Okay, FCAT release tests. These are actual FCAT tests that have been released by the... So what you have here is all of the tests that the Department of Education has released. Real, true FCATs. And they have them on every grade level, and they have them with the answers if you want to do any kind of practicing. And you can see in 3rd grade, this is a 3rd grade one, that is a fairly lengthy passage with an illustration. Okay? And if you look at some of the questions, and again, this is the youngest grade that takes the test, what's the main reason he's bored? Read these sentences, and now they want an inference. Why did the author write that? Why does Timmy think the ladybird looks like it has chickenpox? I'm not going to go back to the story, but I would hazard a guess that they don't say exactly why. the lady, he thinks the ladybird looks like that. Reasoning. So you kind of get an idea of the skills in there. And then if you go back, I don't know if I can go back on this. If you go back, you have some of the math. And we'll take a look at grade 3 math. Oh, this is from 2006, I'm sorry. 2007. Let's look at a grade 5 math selection. Some of these are really tough. You know, and it's not only about being able to solve the mathematics portion of it, it's about being able to know, it tells you how they grade everything, what everything means. I mean, some of these questions are pretty tough. There they start out and they give them a little graph, a little text feature. All right. Dante had 1.5 bags of candy rolls. One full bag had 32 rolls and each had 10 pieces. Which expression could be used to find the total number of pieces? So they're not going to get one operation. They're going to have to do a couple of things. And they don't give you a whole lot of questions, but they give you a good sampling. She bought that grape juice. Huh. I mean, that's brutal. That's brutal. So approach that problem. What's your thought? What's your process? Okay, I'm sorry. Which of these best describes the total amount of grape juice in the bottle before it's opened?
This is just, this is a skill in 5th grade on determining what the most appropriate measure would be. So they just have to have an idea of how much is a cup, how much is a pint, how much is a quart. They have to be able to visualize about how much, basically.
Yeah, because it's not likely that in that bottle you've got 2 gallons.
Right.
But they have to know what 2 gallons is.
Right.
So it presupposes that they understand what's an ounce, what's a cup, what's a quart, and what's a gallon. So you see where they don't ask the question straight out. Okay, because you would expect, you know, how many pints are in a quart? No, this is how they ask the questions. So, you know, when they're going into the refrigerator to get some milk, how much milk do you have? Do you have a half a gallon, a quart?
Oh, and I found recently that one of the biggest misconceptions with 5th grade, so with 3rd and 4th as they're moving up, you can help them with this, is they just assume that a cup is a cup. Any cup.
Ah,
So they have a cup this big and they're like,
it's a cup.
but no, this is bigger than a quart because I drink out of a cup like this, and different kind of cup.
So, you know, if you have your measuring thing,
What a measuring cup is
a measuring cup,
and a drinking cup is different.
make them measure. Force them to measure. So these are a lot of that kind of question. And you'll see a lot of that through here as well. And this isn't working. And now it is. Okay, and then science, again, is 5th and 8th grade only. And do I have any? I thought I had a 5th grade science. No. Okay. Well, the science you will find is mostly reading. So they have to not only know the science concepts, but they have to be able to read the question. Okay, any questions? You're all so good. Yes?
Do 4th graders, they take all of it?
4th grade takes reading, math, writing. I'll go through it. 3rd grade takes reading and math. 4th grade takes reading, math, and writing. 5th grade takes reading, math, science. 6th grade gets a break, reading and math. 7th grade gets a break, reading and math. 8th grade gets walloped. They take reading, math, science, and writing. And if they take algebra, they take the algebra end of course exam as well. And that algebra exam is for high school credit. So, yeah, 4th grade is a tough year because they have that extra FCAT. The FCATs we'll go through next year. We will be doing FCATs next year. And then we're using the Common Core standards right now for K and 1. Next year, Common Core, and I know you've all heard about this with the media and all that, Common Core will be K1, 2. The following year, Common Core will be K to 8, at which time they won't use the FCAT anymore. They'll use something called a PARC. We know very little about it at this point. We're starting, matter of fact, Jennifer went to a training today in Fort Lauderdale, and we're all starting to learn a little bit about the new standards and how we're going to move over to them. But this year and next year, we will be doing the FCAT. We will be doing all of this. So my goal tonight was really to give you an idea of how to, everyday life kind of thing, how to help your kids out. Any other questions? I want to really thank my teachers for coming. I know it's a long day for you. I really want to thank the parents for coming. It's a long day for you as well. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.